It seems that every time you turn around, Xbox is facing massive layoffs. And this is what is happening once again. It was revealed on May 7th that multiple studios owned by this giant would be closing their doors for good. One of the studios closing down are the developers of the Dishonored franchise, while another were the developers behind The Evil Within. It seems that buying every studio they can might not have been a very good move on Xbox's part. In today's video, we are going to be talking about these closures and more. But before we begin, if you think Xbox has been making some very crappy moves lately, including closing these studios down, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. It has been no secret that Microsoft has been trying to buy up every studio they can, with their biggest purchase being Activision Blizzard in October of last year. But it seems that ever since they bought this company, that Xbox has been laying people off left and right. Last January, we saw Xbox laying off over 1,900 people, some of which were from Activision Blizzard, ZeniMax, and Xbox themselves, with Xbox all but laying off their entire physical media department. And it seems that the time for layoffs has come once again. On May 7th, it was announced that Microsoft would once again be laying people off and closing some of their studios. The biggest names among the studios that are closing down would be Arkane Austin and Tango Gameworks, both of which developed games that people loved. Arcane Austin helps develop games like Deathloop and Dishonored. Back in the day, Dishonored was all the rage, and although I wasn't a personal fan of the game, I could see the appeal that it had. It was a game that worked on a morality system to determine the ending you would get. It would take things like how many people you killed into account. Even though the main protagonist was an assassin-like character, killing people would lead to the bad outcome. Arcane Austin has had a hard fall from those days, as more recently, they were the developers behind Redfall, the vampire live service game that was just broken and riddled with bugs at launch. I found this game to be so boring and bland that I ended up noping out of it after the first area, because I just couldn't bring myself to play it anymore. The biggest problem with Arcane Austin shutting down is that Redfall is a live service game, meaning there was no offline mode for it at launch. I say at launch because it was revealed that an update for the game was meant to come out this month that added one to it. But with the closure of the studio, it was announced that any further development for this game would be stopping, meaning that any future updates were no longer being worked on. But Microsoft did come out and say that they would be keeping the servers for this game online. But for how long is anybody's guess. One of these studios that are closing down that I am personally very disappointed to hear about is Tango Gameworks. Tango was founded by Shinji Mikami. Now that name may sound familiar, and the reason why is because he was one of the ones that brought the Resident Evil series to life. The very first game that Tango Gameworks put out was The Evil Within. The game was just amazing. It felt like a Resident Evil game in the way it played while remaining completely original, and the ending for it was just completely mind-blowing. Then in 2017, 3 years after the launch of The Evil Within, we got a sequel that is one of the best action horror games I have ever played. The sequel gave us control once again of Sebastian, as he embarks on a quest to save his daughter, who he believed was killed in a house fire along with his wife. The sequel still left a lot of questions unanswered from the first game and ended on another cliffhanger that seemed to point towards a third entry. Even though The Evil Within 2 was universally loved, it didn't do so great in sales. So it felt like a third entry to the series was put on the back burner while the company worked on other titles like Ghostwire Tokyo or more recently HighFi Rush. HighFi Rush was another game that was just loved by its fans. But like The Evil Within 2, the sales for the game wasn't exactly all that great. Mostly due to the game being available on Game Pass. At first, Xbox did see this game as a success, but later down the line, they ended up changing their minds for some unknown reason. So with these failures from these studios, Microsoft decided to axe them. Arkane Austin released a statement thanking those who supported the studio throughout the years and letting gamers know that if they purchased the Hero Pass or the Premium Bite Back upgrade for Redfall, that they would be eligible for a refund. Tango Gameworks also put out a statement thanking everyone who had played their games and letting them know that all of their previous titles will still remain viable. The question that has been floating around the internet is why exactly did this happen? Microsoft, the company who owns an IP that brings in $5.2 million a day as of 2021, shut down some of their studios that were responsible for some pretty great IPs. If Xbox was desperate for sales from these companies, they should have at least gave them a final chance. Let them develop sequels to The Evil Within 2 and Dishonored 2. Give the fans what they want and see how the sales for these games are. If they're good, leave them open. If not, close them down. That last part of the video is just wishful thinking on my part. Of course, there would be costs to doing this, and more than likely, it would be a gamble that Microsoft wouldn't be willing to take. A former Microsoft employee, Brad Hildebrand, spilled the beans on why these closures might have happened in a LinkedIn post. And spoiler alert, it was because of Game Pass. To summarize the post, Brad is saying that new games that are put on Xbox Game Pass are not going to do too well in sales because nobody is going to pay full price for a game when they can get it for free with their subscription to Game Pass. This is something that I have been saying for a very long time when it comes to services like Game Pass. Sure, you don't actually own the game, but you are still getting to play it in its entirety for less than $20 a month. Because remember, with your subscription, you get access to hundreds of titles. So why would someone who doesn't care about actually owning a game pay $80 for a new title when they could experience it in other games for only $20? The fact is, most people are not going to pay for something that they can get for practically free. Now, apparently, it was revealed why Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin got the axe was because they were the only ones who were in the process of pitching an idea for a game and not already working on something. Arcane Austin was about to pitch a Dishonored-like game, and Tango Gameworks was actually going to pitch a sequel to HighFi Rush. Since these studios were not currently working on anything, they were the ones that got the short end of the stick. Of course, I do not think that I need to say this at this point, but I am going to anyway. All of this is just rumors as of right now. It is a shame to see these two companies that once made great games, ceasing to exist. It makes me wonder what exactly is going to happen to these IPs. Is Xbox going to give them to other studios, or are they just going to leave them sit and die? I hope somewhere down the line we do see some of these games re-emerge, but Honestly, I do not think that is going to happen. If you've made it to the end of this video, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell, and let me know whether or not you are disappointed with these studios closing down. I hope all of you have an amazing and wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.